Well, yes. Okay, Governor of Rivers State, they're giving some insights into some of the things we're going to be discussing this morning. We have with us Ismaeel Ahmed, who is a national youth leader of the All Progressives Congress Caretaker Committee and also senior special advisor to the President on Special Intervention. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, naturally, government, the purpose of government and governance is to provide security and welfare of the people. And it would seem that increasingly there's been plenty of talk, maybe a lot of discontent, it would seem, in terms of the area of security, maybe going by the headlines or maybe going by the interest, the increasing interest that a lot of people are showing in the constitutional amendment process currently ongoing. Some people are asking for a brand new constitution. Some others are saying, you know, they believe that the constitution is sometimes at the heart of the problem. The reason why we have not been able to make the kind of strides that we ought to make as a people. From your perspective, as a member of the ruling party and also as a member of as a leader of the youth wing of the APC, what are your thoughts on, you know, where we currently are and why you think we're here?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Although this is not what I, envisaged that we would be talking about, especially in terms of security, because I always try to stay away from talking about security in particular, because I'm not a security expert. But nevertheless, as a member of the governing party, because we're not a ruling party, we're a governing party, my take is that security situation is always very complicated. And thank God that there is an effort to amend the Constitution. And like you said, some people believe that the Constitution is at the heart of the problem. Listening to the governor of Rivers State talk about that they are not in charge of security agencies in their states. Well, it is very convenient for state governors to say that when it is time to actually effect security measures. But when it is time for elections, believe me, they know how to coalesce and coordinate the same security agents that they complain are not under their control to a particular destined outcome to get what they want. And what the president simply said is that government is not made up of the president or the federal government alone. Government is different levels of tiers of government. And each one has a certain architecture or security network that is supposed to deal with or is supposed to be handling, be it the traditional rulers, be it whatever it is that is at whatever level they have right now. And it's not up to the president. President alone cannot sit down in the villa and decide that I'm decentralizing the security tomorrow and then tomorrow it is decentralized. It's not going to happen. That has to go through the process of legal, the amendment of the Constitution, which is currently going on. And every state has representation in the National Assembly, both in the reps and in the Senate. So I think it's about time that we stop all this talk and overheating the polity about who is to blame for what, and actually get to the bottom of dealing with this problem. The APC has already made its position clear in our 2018 Constitutional Review Committee report that was headed by Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, Governor of Kaduna State. And then I was a member of that committee in APC that we came up with our own suggestions. Those things have been streamlined into bills. We have submitted them. We have submitted them as sponsored bills from the party to our members to be able to push for it in the National Assembly and during the constitutional amendment. And I think it's about time that governors stop passing the blame and shouting about this security architecture in this country and actually focus on what needs to be done to be able to get this right. And I totally agree that there should be some sort of a more sphere of responsibility and more power in the hands of local leaders, local political leaders, as opposed to what is obtainable right now, be it community policing, be it whatever name they will call it. That's my personal belief. And I think it should be pushed, and let's deal with the problem the way it should be dealt with. as opposed to just passing the blame
You
to
say
the
that
president
the
all the
governor
time.
shouldn't pass the blame. They might say that the president passed the blame first, that he is the one who seems to be shirking responsibility.
No, absolutely not.
And sending it right their way when they really do not. I mean, what they can actually do is assist and argument and do all the things. I mean, in terms of buying equipment and
they,
what have you.
in helping, they could also stop making inflammatory statements all the time to keep flaming up tensions that happen in their local communities, in their states, and so
What
many things
segments
like
would
that.
you consider inflammatory?
No, there are a lot of inflammatory statements by local leaders. I don't have to go to specific, but there were a lot of inflammatory statements by local leaders in terms of whenever there are issues, especially ethnic or religious related. It always becomes a problem. It exacerbates and metastasizes into something that becomes a serious security issue. But the point is, the president, you and I both know that the president cannot sit down alone as president and decide to decentralize security tomorrow. He cannot do that. That can only be done through constitutional amendment. That's the process that is ongoing. And let's stick to that and make sure that we get whatever we feel should be the corrective measures in that regard, as opposed to passing the blame.
It would seem that, you know, on the one hand, it is easy to say, you know, the National Assembly has the total responsibility
But they
to
do
be
have
able.
that.
Indeed, they do have the total responsibility to amend the Constitution. But on the other hand, it would seem that if you do not push, if this are some of the changes that your party promised, and you also have it's one of the reasons why you say you need the leadership of the National Assembly to be in tandem with the executive arm of government. Why are we yet to see that push on the part of the executive towards achieving, and by push, I also mean, will I say, some pressure from on the part of the executive to see these changes, if truly they are the heart of what is holding our development back as a country?
Of course they are. There's a lot of pressure from the party. We pushed our bills, we streamlined them, we took our report, 2018 report, we put them into bills, we submitted it to our members, we kept telling them at every meeting that we've had that we really want this to be done. In every meeting we coordinate this, we talk about it. Some people that have reservations, they raise their reservations, we talk about it, we try to, you know, to go over the gray areas where other people have reservations for whatever reason that they have the reservations. And we talk about it, we keep pushing. So there is pressure from us in the party to our members to be able to push this, but it needs to come from the National Assembly first. And National Assembly is not just about the leadership of National Assembly. They are presiding officers. There needs to be debates. There needs to be this.
Don't forget that 2018 was the year preceding 2019. The leadership of the National Assembly in 2018 has since changed in 2019.
We never give that. We never give the leadership of the National Assembly as the reason for not pushing it. When we finished the report in 2018, we took it. It took time for us to serialize it. We were going to election in 2019. It had to be stopped. So we went for election. We came back. We gave it to our members in 2019 to 2020. Well, of course, most of 2020 was gone because of the pandemic. But yeah, we're pushing it. And now there's constitutional amendment going on. And we hope that they would be able to look at that report.
What are some of the changes that you're pushing for as a party?
Well, in terms of security, I think there's a lot of talk about community policing. I think there are lots of recommendations about the need for us to dissect and give some certain of responsibility to local leaders at the local level, especially community level. In terms of security, very important. And the recruitment drive of the numbers and manpower of security agencies needs to go up astronomically. There's no doubt about it, because we are seriously undermanned in terms of police. We're seriously under police. We're seriously, even the army are doing the job of almost everyone. They're doing the job of internal security, the external security, they're fighting insurgents, they're keeping peace, they're doing roadblocks. We just feel that there's an overstretch of a lot of this, and it will keep going on because there are a lot of fault lines in this country that people can just flame up at giving notice, at very short notices. So there is need for a serious community policing. Now, part of the suggestion that a lot of people brought on was the fact that we need to recruit police officers, for example, police officers and leave them in their localities. You know, the president gave an order in the first tenure to have about 10,000 police officers to be recruited. Even that is not enough. I think we need to do a lot more than that. We need a lot more than that. I don't know what the statistics are yet right now, but I think we need a lot more than just 10,000 police officers. But it's a good start if we could do that, and then we can incrementally go on and then make it to about 100,000, 200,000 more police officers in this country. Because we are 200 million strong. From the statistics I get, we're less than 500,000 police officers. It's simply unbelievable. It's simply not enough.
Ismaeel, you must concede that the change your party promised in 2015 is not what Nigerians have received today. I don't know if you will concede that much to Nigerians.
What change did we promise that we didn't give, precisely?
What change did you promise? Let's start from there.
You are the one that were putting it to me. You were putting it to me that the change we promised. So what change did we promise?
Let's start from the areas. Let's start from the key areas where the president promised. Security.
Oh, believe me, a lot of people in the Northeast will not agree with you.
So the Northeast was the biggest issue on the front burner
as of 2014, 2015. As of
2014.
And 2015.
It's still an issue today. There's still huge questions as to whether or not
at the same level of frequency, not at the same level of tempo. Certainly you would agree with that.
So perhaps indeed not at the same level. I mean, there was a time when we made so much progress that the federal government did come out to say that, oh, the insurgents had been defeated. Then later on they modified that to technically defeated. But today, if we ask the governor of Borno State whether or not insurgents are holding ground in Borno, I'm sure he would answer in the affirmative, that there are some areas.
Are you sure he would answer, or he has answered? Which one is it?
So perhaps.
No, I'm asking you. Has he answered that they are holding grounds right now? But I don't want us to get into the semantics of what is happening. There is an insecurity situation still in this country. There's no doubt about it. No government or no country would ever get rid of insecurity in its entirety. None would ever do that. And I remember there's a lot of statistics we've seen about the United States of America and how many times that there was gun violence of people walking into malls or churches or synagogues and killing people at will. And I can't remember how many times President Obama in his 8 years of presidency has condoled the country, has gone to burial sites and the funeral arrangements because of that. Trump did it in his 4 years, and Biden is facing it as well. So no one government would get rid of insecurity in its entirety. Insecurity metamorphoses from one point to another. But to tell me that the problem that we came and met as at 2014, the one that we promised that we are going to do our best to make sure that we put a stop to, which was mostly the northeastern problem of insurgency and terrorism, has not come down. I don't think anybody who lives in the northeast, be it in Maiduguri all the way down to Taraba, would agree with you on that. But have there been other issues of insecurity since then? Absolutely. I'm from the Northwest, and I know that we have serious issues of banditry in the Northwest today. And I know that the security agencies are doing their best to make sure that we nip that in the bud. It was a phenomenon that grew, that we didn't see it coming. It became what it has become, and we're doing our best to make sure that we tackle it. And we have to reorient the citizenry to believe that security is a collaborative effort between the government and the governed, in the sense that there has to be a community that is not willing to harbor criminals. There has to be a community that is willing to give information. There has to be a community that is willing to protect itself in terms of giving information to the authorities as at when due. If I have a small community in Kano, for example, and recently it has been happening in Kano, and you have say, for example, a community of 100 or 200 people, there's usually a traditional system of having miungwa, that is usually like a district head or a village head or whatever. Whoever comes to that place, whoever comes to that village and he wants to buy a plot of land or he wants to lease a plot of land to do either farming or build or do a shop or build a house, he needs to inform the local the local leader there. The local traditional leader would have a chain of command to report it to other people. So we have to sanitize and find out, scrutinize who we are dealing with. Unless we bring back those kind of local arrangements in making sure that we know who we're dealing with, no matter how minute or remote a village is, we are going to continue to have problems of security that we may not foresee. But to tell me that this government has not done incredibly well in terms of dealing with the issues of insurgency, especially in the Northeast, I would absolutely not agree with you.
Incredibly well.
Yes, in terms of the Northeast.
It's a pretty high score to give yourself, especially when you look at the number of lives.
Do you know how many times bombs were going off?
Ismaeel, if I may put in my
prior
question.
to 2015, do you know how many times bombs are going off, including in Abuja? You know it.
So if I may put in my question now, I mean, you have acknowledged the fact that indeed you cannot see all the security situations that will come up when they do come up. Some of them you might be able to foresee, because the president did talk about how the dislodgement of terrorists in the Northeast has also caused them to come down and wreak havoc in other areas. Perhaps what has also caused the banditry problem in the Northwest. So you might not be able to foresee everything. Some of them you might be able to predict. But I think at the end of the day, it's about how you handle.
I can assure you that for every one insecurity situation you see, God forbid, for every one attack you see, God knows how many were prevented by the security agencies that you never get to know about.
Indeed. So the reference right now you made to the United States about how the presidents there have handled the security situation.
I have not talked about how they've handled it. I said they've attended funerals.
Exactly. You talked about them attending funerals. It's part of the way to reach out to the people and comfort them. One of the accusations against the president is that he's been pretty aloof. I think that's one of the things he tried to address in his Democracy Day speech, that any incident that happens affects him as well, because it's one of the accusations that some Nigerians have made, that the president appears rather aloof. How do you explain this? That people keep dying. I mean, let's look at even what is happening in Niger State, the children that have been abducted. There's been not a word from the presidency as to what has happened in Niger State. That children, mere children, almost 200 of them kidnapped, and they're yet to be returned to their parents how many days after? How do we explain that? We saw the rampant kidnappings in Kaduna. Even as we speak, another group of students have been kidnapped as well. We saw what happened in Jos, in Plateau State, in Benue State. These incidences happen almost on a daily basis. And oftentimes, not a word, not a whimper do we hear from the presidency.
First of all, I would disagree with this oftentimes that the president doesn't speak. Now, you're dealing with a situation where I've heard a lot of people complain that the president is always saying he is shocked, he's this. Now,
those are statements from the presidency.
Hold on. Statements from the presidency.
It's not quite the same thing as the president speaking.
Hold on. I am not a spokesman for the president. And I'm sure you would have ample opportunity to ask the president's spokesman about certain things that has to do directly with the president. I'm representing a political party. But I would say this. I know this president because I know him pretty well. I know he cares about a lot of these things. And I know he takes his time before he makes certain statements on certain issues. You would agree with me that whenever these things happen, the president needs to be fully briefed and informed and debriefed about what is going on. And I think this is the only president that most of the kids, at least the ones in Katsina and Zamfara, that were abducted, I remember, I think sometime last year, or was it early this year, I can't remember, were almost returned almost immediately, like a week later or so, thereabout. I'm sure when the president went to Katsina at that time. So it's not as if government is not doing anything or the president doesn't care. I don't think that is true. I think the president cares a lot. Sometimes he waits and tarries a bit before he makes statements. And then his spokespeople do that on his behalf. Whenever there is need for him to speak directly, He does, like you've seen in the interviews that he has granted. Um, Basically, I'm more interested in the president doing what he's doing, making sure that he holds security meetings, he charges his security chiefs and people who are responsible for this to do whatever it takes to make sure that not only do the ones who have been affected directly are brought back safely, but that it doesn't happen again. I think that is the job of the president. If you're asking me, should he show up every time that there is something of this magnitude, an abduction or killings of this magnitude? Maybe I would encourage him to do so. Maybe I would encourage him to do so. But I also understand that for whatever reason that sometimes he does it through his spokespeople. I think he has a pretty good reason for that. I'm not going to second guess him. All I know is that he cares about this country. He is doing the best he can, and he makes sure that he charges his security agencies to deliver on their mandate.
You know, it would seem that the disillusionment that a lot of young people feel about government and governance in general was the protest we saw with NSAS. And sadly, the aftermath of that protest, it would seem, is all that government sees these days, because the destruction was unprecedented in the aftermath. But the real protest, the people, what they were asking for, the young people, what they were asking for was an end to police brutality, which they felt was in the way of them achieving economic prosperity. And they were being harassed. To your mind, what has the APC, let me put it that way, because you lead the APC now, have you been able to, see that as an opportunity to perhaps, get young people involved in government?
Absolutely, and I think that's why we're having a conference on Monday, and that's why the president is declaring that conference open. And he is going to speak to young people, at least of the party, for the first time since the inception of the party in 2013, which is about 8 years now. For the first time, we're having the largest and big conference of young progressives converging in Abuja. The president is declaring some of our biggest leaders are going to be there, and we're going to talk about, because there needs to be a conversation between the leaders and the led, between those who would be in the future and those who are making those decisions for the future. And I think it's an opportunity for young people and even the leaders of the party to take this opportunity and sit down and be able to converse, because there seems to be a misunderstanding of the wavelength and the thinking of young people. And we are both antagonistic towards each other in most cases, because the young people disregard the older people as if they are not out of touch with reality. They don't think the same way we think. They don't see the things we see, or they don't read the way we read.
Do you think I was crystallized in the Twitter ban?
No, I think so. But let me just finish this. That's why we're having that conference. It's the biggest conference, and I want, and I'm glad that the president is going to be there, the vice president is going to be there, and all the leaders of the party are going to be there, and for us to have that conversation, because I think that nexus needs to be seriously strengthened between the leaders and the led. And the young progressives need to know that this is an opportunity, because they are 60% of the party and the country. The issue of the Twitter ban, people have asked me as a young person, what do I think of Twitter ban? I ask them simply, do you want me to choose a foreign company over my country? It's not going to happen. The patriot in me will not allow me to do that. I think that a foreign company that has no legal representation or personality in this country cannot have the kind of power to cause a national security issue like Twitter has without some sort of a backlash. As a young person, I want to tweet every day. I want to have an opportunity to say my mind. I want to be able, I get informed by Twitter every day. So I hope that there will be some sort of resolution, because I heard, I don't know if it's true, that Twitter has tried to reach government. And I think government on our own part too, what we have not done, which we should do, is to have some sort of a formal liaison or a communication channel between us and these major companies that reach far more of our citizens than the conventional media does. And yet, we do not have a channel of communication with them. That should have happened immediately after NSAS. And we should have had that kind of communication with Twitter, with Facebook, with WhatsApp, with Instagram, so that things like this could be resolved without getting to the stage that it got to. But the fact that a foreign company can bring down a tweet of a certain president just because they feel that what he said was wrong, even though in the context of which he said it, there was absolutely nothing wrong with what the president said, I think it's absolutely unacceptable. No company should have that kind of power over a sovereign nation like ours.
Well, on this point, we have to say thank you for coming on Sunrise Today this morning. Ismaeel Ahmed is a national youth leader of the All Progressives Congress, that's the Ketika Committee, and also the senior special advisor or assistant now? SSA. Assistant to the President on Special Intervention. Well, that's it for this segment. Sunrise Today will continue in a moment. Please stay with us.